Welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. And in studio with us today, we've got Kumaran Padiachi. He is CEO of Spartan SME Finance. And for those of you who've been watching the show for 12 years now, maybe it's 13, just we've been doing this a long time. Kumaran was part of the show for 8 or 9 of those years, every week on your television, together with me, with him abusing me quite often. And today I brought him back. Maybe some revenge, but on a serious note, to talk about from a decision-making perspective is to take action. Is the action the relationship between decisions and actions? You know, a lot of people say, "I'm going to lose weight now. I've decided." Yeah.
Well, why are you going there on that? You could have used so many other examples.
No.
You're talking about yourself.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Like, I'm only talking about myself.
Okay.
Like make that decision, right? And then maybe tomorrow we don't act on it. So these decisions, the quality of the decision is one thing, the quantity of the decision is the other thing, right? But the third thing is the actually enacting the decision is possibly the most important.
Yes, for sure. And analyzing why we don't act in certain, because the reasons for not acting in one instance may not be the same for, sometimes it could be a fear of the unknown. Sometimes it's a fear of the consequence, which we know is going to happen. It's a negative, you spoke about that before the break. Or third, I find sometimes we've got conflicting priorities, depending on how material it is or not. We haven't made that choice about prioritization. Or lastly, in fact, there could be more to it. We're not thinking, it's an inability to think through all the micro steps. So imagine the problem bigger than, Nicole has been many years with me, my executive assistant. Sometimes this is something she needs me to do, because, sometimes they're our boss. I don't know how perverse that is. But she'll say, it's only 5 minutes. This is what the 3 things you require. She breaks it down like I'm a 5-year-old, because I would tend to avoid certain types of things, because I imagine it to be
big in your head.
Of a schlep. And so I don't act on that. So she's learned how to say there's a whole host of reasons why we don't act.
Yeah. So to me, there's you've obviously read Richard Rumelt, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, and his famous quote is, bad strategy is unexecuted strategy. That's a good, so that's it. And his whole hypothesis is that in taking the action, if you've got a iterative mindset, if you've got a learning mindset, even the mistakes are part of taking you to the result. And so once you made the decision, even if it is the wrong decision, the ability then to act on it, learn from it, and then reenact. You're in the game. You're in. Yeah, you start, just take action.
Agreed.
You're just going to stop there and just give me monosyllabic responses.
I'm talking too much sometimes. So,
no, we love your voice.
It's right. It does come down to execution, and I'm, when you mentioned about health and those types of things, because in some aspects,
I was talking about myself.
I know. But in some aspects,
don't self-reference.
Yeah, we keep it on. But in some aspects, we are good at acting on certain things, but we're not in others.
Yeah.
And so you are good at executing on certain things, but not in others. Like that little stomach thing you got going on there, and vice versa.
Say little stomach thing.
But you get the idea. So sometimes a good executor is not good at executing everything.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to my original starting point, is analyzing ourselves in decision making, because our inherent flaws as a person comes through in these decisions or not acting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why are we good at acting on one thing and not on the other?
So that means that that's where teams come in, where you bring your team in, you build your team to enact your decisions. Okay, so like your executive assistant brings in her team for you to enact her decisions. It's about building out those teams, and I find that and it generally will be places where you're weak or unconfident, where you won't take action, or there's perceived pain, physical or emotional, that you won't take those decisions. So for me, that's about putting the right team to enact those decisions.
Yeah, true.
So you sit as the sort of the decision making, or perhaps with that team, and they are then.
But you could be the problem. That's what you can't.
Have you been talking to my wife?
Yeah.
Okay. About me being the problem, huh?
One can be the problem.
Okay,
You know what I mean? It's not. It's sometimes it's the leadership is not having the courage to act.
Yeah.
And the team sometimes needs to lean on that courage, vice versa,
Yeah.
or they need to call you out on it.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. But you can't abdicate, you can't blame them only. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've spoken about the quality. And so we couldn't talk about just quality. We had to talk about quantity as well, that you can make one quality decision a year and make the business won't move forward. You need to make many decisions, right? And the third thing is that you have to enact the decision for it to have quality. That good strategy is executed strategy. That's what good strategy is. Anything else around decision making that you want to add before we close up?
Yes. There's this blogger. I'm not sure if he's a blogger, but there's a newsletter by Shane Parrish.
Yes.
I forget what it's called now, but audience can Google that. Maybe we can show it up on the screen. Shane Parrish. He has a newsletter, and every Sunday, and it's for avid readers. He talks about books and learning from readings and whatever. But one of the things that he talks about there is models for decision making or thinking, and there's various, and that's very enlightening to. You'll talk about how you get around confirmation bias or anchoring or this, that, and the other. And there's various different tools if someone wants to learn about it. That's not comprehensive enough, but it widens it's a whole new world.
So supporting yourself with the right decision-making tools where other people have given templates.
They've thought about the thinking already.
Yeah, and they've given you a structured way to think through something. Yes. So like an example of that, for example, would be a SWOT analysis, a very simple one.
Yeah, that's it.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Yeah.
But there's dozens of these things you could have in your repertoire to pull out, from the tool bag.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up there, and I'm going to try and summarize this for you today. So we were speaking about the concept of quality decision-making, and what we've learned today is that quality decision-making doesn't live alone. That if you are going to make quality decisions, it's about understanding yourself, which Kumaran pointed out first. First, you have to understand who you are in this equation and what biases, etc., you might have. And maybe something from your past, or somebody looks like something, and so you won't take them seriously because they reminded you of your terrible teacher at school. So understanding yourself in the decision making affects the quality. Taking time to make those decisions affects the quality. And then we moved on to the quantity of decision making, and the fact that we have to have many decisions. We need to make many decisions in many environments. Sometimes we are confident, and we spoke about also being overconfident and underconfident. And the whole idea is to get in the game, close the confidence gap if there is one, and maybe hold back your confidence if you're overconfident, so that you're making the right quality of decision. But it also is about making those decisions, the quantity. And then we spoke about the fact that we have to act on those decisions, and quoting, of course, Richard Rumelt spoke about a good strategy is an executed strategy. And then finally, quite rightly so, Kumaran spoke about being familiar and surrounding yourself with tools that other people have actually created to help you through this process. And I cannot underestimate what Kumaran has spoken about right now, because often I know that when I'm in an environment where I'm unfamiliar, there's somebody who's been there before, who's had to make decisions in a similar place. And some clever person at some consulting firm has built a model already, and it's out there. And we have this thing called the internet. We can just look it up and we can find out if there are tools to help us make decisions. And on that note, Kumaran, I've decided to bring you back one more time.
Good thinking.
It's good thinking. It's high quality thinking. Okay, maybe I'm a little overconfident, but that's it for today's show. Do remember, if you think it, write it down and make it a reality.